Tom and Charles. Thanks.
Hello everyone, thanks for having us back. We did a talk about our company Meetup a couple of months ago, and you guys liked it enough that you allowed us to do another talk. So, completely different subject today, but before I get into that, the first thing is, if you've not downloaded Expo Go on your device and you'd like to follow along, please do so. The Wi-Fi details are here if you need them. And I'll keep that QR code up so you can scan that, and that'll take you to the App Store or the Play Store, and you'll be able to download Expo Go, which is the app you'll be able to use to follow along with some of our demonstrations here. If you catch me looking at my phone, it's not because I'm texting the missus. I have slide control here. So, my name's Tom, and this is my co-founder Charles. And the title of this talk is Going from Zero Code to App Store Submission using Expo without using Android Studio or Xcode. Okay. So Charles and I have been developing professionally for about a decade now. We've been messing around with React Native for many, many years. In 2019, we founded an app development agency specializing in React Native called Morrow. And we've delivered dozens of apps as part of that company. We now run Meetup, which is a mobile app testing platform we're launching in 6 weeks, say, but don't quote me on that. So, for those of you that are not familiar, I'm sure you all are, but React Native is a mobile app development framework. It allows you to develop for both iOS and Android using JavaScript or TypeScript for grown-ups in the room. And it's not a web framework, so it does natively render components. This is not like Ionic or some hybrid technology. This is not a PWA, we're actually rendering natively. And Expo is a tool set that's on top of that. It's made by Charlie Cheever, who's one of the founders of Cura. He exited that and used his exit money to found Expo and run that as a tool set on top of React Native. So I know there is some natural resistance to React Native in the community, and that's okay. You know, it's not for every use case. If you've got a big enterprise app and you're going really deep and you absolutely have to have APIs directly from the source, then obviously you want to be building in native. But in our types of scenario, in startup world and agency world, the speed and flexibility that React Native gives you is very powerful, and we're hopefully going to showcase some of that today. So what we're going to go through is 2 demos, and they're going to be showing web dev in the browser, so actually developing without a development environment at all. We're going to look at over-air deployment, so that's where you don't have to build a binary. We're just going to deploy apps over the internet using JavaScript technology. We're going to be looking at native APIs, so look at how easy and quick it is to use native APIs in the React Native world. And for those of you that are suspicious about rendering and performance speeds, we're going to be looking at big lists and rendering those really quickly, and also animations. Finally, we'll look at building in the cloud so that you don't have to have any local build environment, and auto deployment up to the app stores using Expo command line services. So I'm going to hand over to Charles, who's, let's be honest, done the majority of the work for this. And he's going to take us through demo 1, where we look at the browser, over the air, and camera.
Cool. Well, hi everyone. As Tom mentioned earlier, part of the magic of Expo and React Native is that you're writing the code in JavaScript or TypeScript, even better, and you're then rendering the output of that code natively on your device. So everyone who's downloaded the Expo Go app now will have access to all of these underlying native APIs that are provided by Expo. So things like camera, cellular information, getting the file system, the vast majority of things that you would do on a daily basis in development of a mobile app. And because you have that native code inside that Expo Go app you've installed, we can now do some very smart things, like go to a tool called Snack. So if you scan this QR code, in Android you can scan direct from Expo Go. In iOS you have to use your phone camera first. You are now all connecting. Oh, 5, 6, 7. Never had this many people connect to my Snack before. This is a bit like CodePen, and what it's allowing us to do is write code directly in the browser and have that JavaScript bundle go to your phone and then be rendered. So you should all have a screen. Well, part of the magic is because it's React, it can render to any targets, including the web. So if I go to the web tab here, I can see what you're seeing on your mobile app, which is a screen like this. So I can come here and I can go and I can modify this code, saying hi, SW mobile devs, and you're getting some natively rendered text elements on your phone in front of you. I can do stuff like kill this element and that's going to go away. So that's not very exciting, is it? Because I've just done some text and a picture. But what we can do is go and take a look at their sample code for camera. And I can go and put this code inside here for you. So you'll see it's upset because I need to add a dependency. So I just click that button, it automatically adds a dependency for me, like npm. And you can see I'm now accessing my native.
You might need to grant permission on your phone, so there's a little button to grant permission, and that will allow the camera to use your device.
And now you can all see your own faces, not just mine. Cool, so there we've gone from absolutely nothing in a web browser to you all accessing native camera APIs on your phones over the air. So that's demo 1. Pretty cool, I hope you might agree.
Okay.
Technical issues. It's the people.
Just find out this side of the
Yeah, we're fine. This day.
Make sure you've got the latest version of Expo Go, because they update it very regularly. And,
Pixel Fold, someone's got a Pixel Fold.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
Okay, we'll move on to demo 2. We'll take all the questions at the end, so please stop that. So looking at demo 2, so let's get a little bit more sophisticated now. Look at rendering some more complicated components, animations, big lists. We'll look at OTA again, but we'll do it. It won't be live over the air updates. What we'll do is we'll give you a QR code to scan at the end, so that you can grab the version of the app we're building. And then finally, we'll look at Cloud Build and App Store upload. You have to shake them when they come in.
So I wanted to just make a quick app that was, representative of what a SWmobile app might be. What better app to develop for SWmobile than the SWmobile app? I was browsing on Dribble and I really liked the name of this app, ChatDong. So I thought, let's build ChatDong. It's got some good stuff in here. It's got these navigation controls at the bottom that don't look very React Native at all. They look pretty native. It's got a large list scrolling inside of it, and I've thrown in some animations as well, just to highlight the things that most people don't trust React Native for. Things where you hit performance issues. So I'm using a component set called Tamagui. It's very cool. I won't go into too much detail about it, but it's universal, React Native and web. It does a lot of really smart compilation for performance. And I'm going to open up a fresh VS Code session, and I'm going to start by just creating the template application provided by Tamaguri. So this is just base that anyone gets the moment that they start using it. And call this SWmobile Live. And this is the full Next.js Expo monorepo setup. So Tamaguri is helpful here. I'm just going to go and create all of my, set up the Git for me, initialize the repo, and then there's quite a lot of smart stuff it does in order to make the monorepo work for sharing components between web and native.
There's probably a whole talk we could do just on Tamaguri, but we're not gonna go into detail. This is the Express tour.
I like that talk.
There's already a second time.
Yeah, we're meant to be working on our startup.
We've got time for this. Talks come first.
So now I can just run yarn native, which is going to go and create my my local server.
You are good.
I could share this with you guys, but every time I've used the tunnel, it hasn't worked very well and it's kind of crashed it. But you can tunnel, and you guys could join this session from my computer. Use ngrok to create like a proxy over the air. But it works a bit better on localhost. So I'll just make sure that my simulator is running. It's funny how the first 99.3% goes in about 5 seconds, and there's about 10 seconds for the final 0.7. Okay, so I'll just give you a quick look through the folder structure here, because it is interesting as the monorepo. Here you can see within the apps folder, these are the targets for our code. So in Expo, we will declare all of our navigation in here, and all of our custom configuration for our app name, the setup for using Expo services in the cloud in order to be able to build out different variants. If you want to make a simulated build or an A/B or whatever, that's all defined in this JSON here. And then equally on the next side, we have the next specific configuration, like the pages and the next config.js. And then all of the work that we do is in this universal packages section of the monorepo, and then we import that into our Expo and Next.js target folders. Cool, so here we have Square Zero. This is a Tamaguri base app. And I know I said I was going to live code, but I'm not going to actually write everything from scratch because I think everyone would die of boredom. I'm just going to copy over the work that I've done and kind of tie it together for you in the end.
Bit of a Blue Peter. Here's one we prepared earlier.
Okay. So I'm just bringing over my components folder and the Expo config. So the Expo config is going to have stuff like our icons for the app, and it's going to have the stuff I mentioned earlier, the name, and then my components is just holding the bits and pieces that I've built in order to show you the stuff, the performance of scrolling lists. There we go, now we got the splash screen, which was the SWmobile splash screen. And this is our first sign of chat dung. We have our little animated bar at the bottom here. I've called it members because I'm going to put a list of all 1,200 SWmobile members in there, which I scraped. And you can see it's got this nice little animation here with quite smooth, it's no junk, everything's behaving quite well across all of these jumps. So next up I'm going to do the top of chat dung, this little So hello SWmobile, and then the horizontal scrolling list, which is going to be the events, upcoming events. Actually, I do want that.
Hopefully you all agree that the animation was acceptably smooth on that bottom component there.
Very nice. Is it a native animation or is it JavaScript?
So this is using React Native Reanimated. React Native Reanimated is the accepted best practice in React Native. It's surpassed React Native's own native animation implementation, and it has all sorts of really cool methods which allow you to attach into animations, follow them, create values which you modify, and then those values can drive a variety of animations. And it's really highly optimized by not sending information back and forth between the JavaScript bridge and native. It's all compiled native side, and you trigger it rather than having to constantly make the animation occur through JavaScript. Cool, so we're at stage 1 here. We got a little SWmobile at the top. Next up we can add in our bar. Oh, I need to run Yarn quick. Luckily Yarn caches everything, so I don't have to worry about the internet being slow.
This is the high risk bit. If it's going to go wrong, it's now.
I don't know, there's plenty of high risk bits.
We need some sound effects, don't we? We need like a little board where you
Yeah. Maybe a drum roll, I don't know.
like
That's
a
appropriate.
slide whistle.
Shaw's thing.
Yeah, we could put some great lift music going on.
I think I just need to clear my cache, one sec.
This is
Yeah, what? I wonder why we've not had many live coding songs
Yeah.
so far.
this I take my hat off to you doing this. Even with the copy paste, it's dangerous, but exciting at the same time.
Charles and I don't know that much about native app development, so we'd be really interested to see an Android and iOS live coding talk in the future.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see one of them. Is there space next week?
We might have to do like a weekend retreat.
Start the compiler with one meeting.
Yeah, exactly. Kick off Gradle, everyone go to bed.
It's not behaving, but I do have a backup plan. I'm just going to go to the one that I made earlier.
Box. I find that I guess it's a state because of metro number. There's no way to clean the cache. Or you can view out the window. Here it is in the box over there.
Yeah, I did threaten to bring my laptop as backup. Charles assured me it was not necessary.
Isn't that one of the issues of this though? Like you get I've seen that with the React Native things, that red error that you get, and it's sort of like, I mean, I can't read it from here, but as that happens, and suddenly the bridge is dead.
It's still code 65 and then iOS. You get that one, you know you've done it.
It's just like you don't know what it is. I don't know, genuine question, like does that happen?
Most of the time, 90% of the time, the error is useful and obvious. I mean,
Okay.
that particular one is that the module wasn't available. So
Okay.
because Charles is using Yarn package manager and it's a fully cached system, so probably the cache is invalidated or the build cache is invalidated
Yeah.
somehow. And so it's just not working. So usually what you would do is you would go and nuke all your modules and you go and pull them in again. But that's a 3-4 minute round time, and in the purposes of the talk, it's probably
better than CocoaPods of Cradle.
Yeah.
Cool. So went to my backup. This is where I always have a backup. This is our fully made app, and so you can see we've replicated all the elements in Chactong. I just love saying Chactong. We've got a little header here announcing it's a SWmobile app. I put a few events in here that we could then expand on and open up and get live. And then within here we have the members. So I scraped this. This is everyone in Meetup. This is 1,200 people. I'm sure you gave your consent to someone to have this data publicly available. And as you can see here, I'm scrolling a lot. This is intensive scrolling, but because we're using all of the best practice for rendering lists, we're using virtualization, and we're using something called React Native Flash List, which entirely virtualizes all of the components here, the header and the subtitle and the user's image. And it also has a very recent addition to their stack, which is a super performant caching image layer. So you can see that we're scrolling fast here, and there's no blank spots. It's partly a lie, because you'll see if we stop, it's taking people's images and recycling them. So it'll transition between the previous image and the next image because of its recycling. It's actually not destroying those components, it's just modifying the contents of them. So it's very, very fast. And if we also just quickly put up the
It's one of the benefits of having people like Shopify who wrote that component. You know, there's some big firms that have adopted React Native, and they've contributed a lot to the community, which has helped build really reliable components for some of the basic stuff. Because the React Native core team doesn't put out much. You don't, unlike a wider ecosystem like Flutter, you don't get so much. But the community is really big, which is helpful.
So you can see here I've got a little performance monitor up on the screen. It's got two grey squares there. That's the frames per second for the UI thread and the frames per second for the JavaScript thread. So on the UI thread, that's handling all of the rendering, all of the images, and the JavaScript thread is responsible for, in this case, probably fetching the images that it hasn't already cached, for example. And the UI thread is locked at 60 FPS, no matter how intensive I am with the scrolling through thousands and thousands of list items. And equally, I can go mad with this little animation down here, and we're not dropping any UI frames no matter what. Cool, so we've covered animation. Hopefully I've evidenced that we're running at 60 FPS constantly. You'll get a chance to use it on your phone as well after this, so you can feel it for yourself. Big lists, and we will give you the OTA link in a second. But next up, this is what I think a lot of people said ooh and ah for, was building the app without having Xcode or Android Studio. This will build all of your apps for you in the cloud, because it's all a very smartly optimized system. There's a lot of similarities in people's builds, and when you do have differences in your build and your native modules, it's all done in a certain framework which they prescribe. So that enables them to be a lot more efficient and successful when doing builds than you writing your own fast lane and it failing again and again. So this is as easy as running npx EAS build. So I've defined all of my builds inside of the EAS.json, these are all different like flavors or variants of my build. I could have a development one, which would build with an APK and for iOS simulator. I've got a production one, which would be distribution for the store. So this is going to use the appropriate distribution certificates and provisioning profiles in iOS, and also use AAB for Android, and produce an IPA for iOS instead of producing .app for a simulator. And if I run EAS build here, I'll make this a bit bigger. So I can choose what platforms I want to build for. I'll build for both. So my Android build, it's just taking my source code here and zipping it and sending it up to the cloud, where it's going to run a server and do the build for me. For Apple, I have to log into my account so that it can access their provisioning profiles and distribution certificates, which may have changed since the last time you've run it. I think you don't necessarily have to, but it's always best practice to, in case you've added new devices or whatever. Choose my organization.
So on that note, you have to go into your Apple developer account and create your provisional profiles.
No, this sets everything up for you automatically. Just by signing in here, it will go up. I selected the correct organization, so it's gone as that organization. It's created a new provisioning profile if I didn't have one already, and distribution certificates. And here it's also asking if I want to set up a push notification certificate. So I haven't yet, but if I said yes, it would go and create me one, and it would be visible in your certificates and identifiers section within App Store Connect. There you go. So now I have two builds busy being done for me in the cloud, and I have no dependence on having a Mac computer. I don't even have Xcode. I don't even have all of the pain of the installation of Android Studio and like Java versions breaking and not having the correct environment variable pointing to your Java root. None of that. This just happens for me now.
This is within EAS free tier as well, so there is a queued system. If you want prioritized build, they offer a paid package. But for getting started, the free tier is more than adequate.
So if you don't have a Mac, how do you test your app? You use the Expo Go app.
Correct.
You've got a device with the Expo
Yeah,
Go
if
app.
you've got an iPhone, then yeah, you can use Expo Go
Or Meetup.
Morobo, yeah. Yeah, we also run a testing startup. So
I'm sure that's still talking in the fine.
So this is the dashboard. You can see here, this is my SWmobile sub app within my account. I have lots and lots of apps in here. And here you can see all of the builds I've done. So I've done a few before. Just did an Android and iOS one earlier today when I was testing. And this Android build is in the queue right now because I'm in free tier. If I paid, it would go and build straight away. And same with my iOS. If we look at the build times, Android took 14 minutes to build. And iOS took 15 minutes to build. Cool. While I'm here, I can go and take a look at the branches. If you want to take a look at this app now on your phone, if you're on Android, you can scan this QR code for Expo Go.
this was when Charles did a publish earlier, so he pushed up the JavaScript only piece up to Expo.
And then if all the Androids are done, we can do the iOS one as well. And the iOS one. Shouldn't be crashing, don't say that. Sorry, I tried this earlier.
It's working for me on that.
Yeah. The dark mode settings aren't quite right for me, but everything else is good. And yeah, to try to screw it up. Scroll as fast as you can, and just see how well it behaves. That's not something that people associate with with React Native apps.
Yeah.
10 fingers.
Yeah, it's worth saying that the members to the bottom don't have bios, so the members at the top have bios where you see the text. If you see the name only, it's because they've not added a bio to their Meetup profile.
Cool, so we've done animation, we've done big lists, we've done over the air, as you've got it now on your phones. We've done a cloud build. I won't force you to wait for it to go through, but cool.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault.
Are you still in controls, man? Cool, and now App Store upload. So this is a really cool feature. Normally when you do your build, you have to go and find it. Sometimes in Android, Gradle's put it in some like insane place, and you can go and dig it out and get your A, B, log into the App Store Connect or log into the Play console, and then upload your app. And you know, if you've done it in CI, you got to download a 100 meg app and then go and then put it into another place, or you got to spend a lot of time and money to try and make Fastlane work for once. But here, I can just run ES submit. I'll show you quick that it works. So in my App Store Connect, I've got version 1.0.0 of the app, and now I'm going to submit my latest build. So Android surprisingly is harder than iOS to make work, because you have to go and get some special API key. But iOS is surprisingly easy actually. So here I've logged into my account using the CLI. You saw I just typed EAS submit. I'm looking at the builds that I've done so far. So this is a production build that I did earlier. This is getting it from the dashboard I showed you earlier in EAS. And okay, so now I'm just waiting for an available function to pick up my job and submit it. And because it's going from the cloud to the cloud, I'm not having to download it to my computer first. I don't have to deal with the annoying files, and I don't have to worry about my internet connection speed. This is just going to go straight to the store. And as soon as it's done, then it's going to do the standard processing step that it does in App Store Connect. But it'll be available in no time. There you go. If you've submitted an iOS app before, you know it's normal to have a weird gray box when you've just done it. Cool, so that's everything in that slide. Do you have anything else, Tom?
I think that's it. Thanks for listening, everyone. You can find us on LinkedIn or the SWmobile Slack, and we welcome your questions. Yeah, go for it.
If you wanted to drop down and work with some native SDKs, for example, using XCode, I'm thinking one of the projects I've worked on is we're using a hardware device that connects it to the phone. And the SDKs were written for iOS and Android and Objective-C and Java. There's no React Native libraries available, so we needed to write some bridging code so that our React Native app can talk to that. How would you do that with XCode or Expo?
So there's kind of two parts. The first is writing a React Native module from native code. So writing a React Native module is traditionally quite difficult. You have to make sure that all of your types line up and that you're converting everything from like strings to the correct Java representations and Swift representations or whatever. But Expo have been working really hard and have recently released something called Suite Modules with API. I don't know, they're developers. And it's a much simpler framework for you to create a cross-platform React Native module that's really easy to connect into your app. So on the development side of getting your native code into a React Native module, they've done a lot of work there to make it much easier. And then in terms of getting your own native code into an Expo app, they have something called config plugins, which is an integral part of these cloud builds that you do. So all you need to do is specify when you have a native React Native module, and when you do your build, it'll automatically bring that in and automatically link it and put it into the build for you.
It allows you to define how you modify your manifests. So instead of doing the linking at dev time and having to manage that linking as part of your repository, you do it at build time, and so you never have to introduce an iOS or Android folder into your repo.
How would you kind of test that as you're going along? So just thinking again, the use case of using the Expo Go app or the app from you guys.
So they have a concept called a dev client, and a dev client is just an extensible Expo Go.
So Expo Go is all of Expo's SDKs covered for about 3 different versions. So they do a quarterly release, and they'll deprecate an older SDK that was a year old, and so they'll support all of those different versions in the Expo Go that you download off the app stores. But if you build a dev client, what it does is it optimizes and brings in, for a start, the SDK that you're on, but also only the modules you're using, plus any custom modules that you put in as part of your build system.
I'm just trying to see if we have one readily available here.
So you can give that to your manual testers, or you can upload it into Meetup, and then you can do over-the-air updates to it at any point.
Yeah, it's essentially just an extension of Expo Go, and you bundle in whatever of your own native modules you want, and it operates in exactly the same way, where you receive the JavaScript over the air, and you have this little overlaying dashboard where you can see your JavaScript bundles that you connect into.
Does that answer your question, Tom?
Yes. I think the big benefit of Expo over like someone like Andy who's running Bear React Native is that I don't know if we can use Swift to write iOS. I've still got to write Objective-C for my bridging code, for example, someone's time over doing it wrong, which is very difficult. And basically Kotlin and Swift look the same. You don't write Java either with Expo. And they're just change the order of the declarations and functions. Fun function.
Just as a follow-up to that, what was kind of the React Native world like before Expo came along? Like, what are the biggest things that they brought to making your life easier as a React Native developer?
Expo came along pretty early in React Native's lifecycle. I think React Native was only around for a year or two before Expo turned up on the scene. So it's been going for a long time, but it's gone through a huge product development. So initially they had the idea of a kind of walled garden. So you could run your Expo app in managed workflow, but you couldn't get out very easily. So if you wanted to go and run your custom native modules, you'd have to fully eject out of the system. And so they've been playing around with products over the last couple of years, and EAS turned up about 18 months ago. I think they released the first version, and that has now allowed you to basically run the middle ground between being fully ejected and having to manage all of your React Native build system and all of your configuration versus being in the walled garden of Expo. So you kind of got the power of Expo, but you can hop out and do whatever you need to outside the ecosystem.
Previously, React Native was very fragile. It would break for no reason all the time. If you ever need to do an upgrade of React Native, you need to have your dev set aside for a week to go through all of the issues that would come up, because there would be something that was part of some module that wasn't tested against some part of some other module, and it was all just open source for fun. But when Expo came along, they really tried to tie it all down to something which you could trust, and in particular upgrades. Upgrades was so much easier with Expo because you run npx expo upgrade, and then that just automatically makes sure that all of your dependencies are the dependencies that are suitable for and tested against that version of Expo and React Native by proxy.
Yeah, it's interesting. Reminds me of the early days of Android a little bit. Like, it was a bit of a wild west of dependencies and not mature frameworks, and that sounds big progress.
Yeah, I mean, in Moro we delivered dozens of apps. So if you had to go and manage all the build configurations in a kind of traditional React Native way or a native way, it just wouldn't have worked. So just to be able to get that scalability, if you lose a developer to building an IPA in Xcode, then that's half an hour of them sorting that out versus just pinging someone an OTA link. It's those kind of productivity gains really add up over time.
Yeah. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I just wonder, it might be sort of not the point of it, but is there any way of doing this on-prem? It's all very trusting of the cloud and the cloud services. It sounds awesome if you don't have a Mac or whatever, but is there any option if you wanted to run Expo and run this and you wanted to have it all within your corporate environment?
So if I do this, then I just can choose to build the iOS app locally.
Okay.
And now this is going to use Xcode build CLI tools in order to build it without sending it up to the cloud.
Nice.
Any more for any more?
Yeah, the bundle size, is that any bigger using Expo or further releases?
It kind of depends. Expo does a lot of smart stuff to manage your assets and prevent shipping assets multiple times, which is one of the largest aspects to any bundle. The builds that we're producing here are I think they're going to be in the region of 12 meg, and the bundle sizes is typically 1 to 2 meg, so long as you don't have a lot of assets. Yeah, you see this. It's quite hard to know the size until you actually push it through the store because it has all the optimizations and bytecode and stuff. But I think it's in the region of 10 to 15 megabytes for a simple app, and then depending on what you push through it, if you're pushing machine learning multiple 100 megabyte files over the air, then that's going to have an impact.
Yeah. It's a good question though, because that was a traditional critique of Expo, right? Is the bundle size. So it used to be that if you're in managed workflow, they would bundle in every single API that you could possibly need as part of the Expo ecosystem. But they did quite a lot of work for a start to slim that down and optimize it, but also with the new dev client system and the build system, they'll take out stuff you're not going to use.
So the AAB here is 27 megabytes. I think that's going to work out to about 12 megs for an install through the Play Store.
Any others?
Just like one quick question, probably a bit naive, but the hot reload stuff, can you actually publish something to, say, the Apple App Store and then reload it, the actual content, or is there some, do Apple kind of prevent that, or have any limitations on what
It's
you
a
do?
really, really powerful part of Expo. If you released your app, your native app, and you discovered that you have a bug, the tester was, hung over that day and didn't notice that on screen 3, if you click that button, it crashes the app.
You won't use Morocco.
Then the turnaround time to discover the bug, modify the bug, do the native build, upload that to the stores, get approved, which can take 3 to 7 days easily if you don't have a friendly reviewer in the App Store. It can take 10 days before you can fix this bug, and there's nothing you can do. You're just stuck with this bug. Whereas with Expo, because you can release your bundles over the air, you could have that fixed on all users' phones within 10 minutes of discovering it.
I guess the next question is there a danger of people completely changing their app content? Is there any limitation from the Apple side to prevent that? So it would violate their kind of guidelines.
I have asked the Expo team many times if they expect Apple to suddenly say no, this is against our policies. But I think by now there's just such a large proportion of apps from large companies as well, like Tesla, previously Airbnb, and all sorts of apps which are React Native and are using these mechanisms. I think they're probably held to ransom a bit, that they could destroy their stores if they suddenly cut off the top third of applications.
It's worth mentioning there are other technologies that do this as well. Code Push by Microsoft, I think. Yeah. You know, they've been doing this for years. Expo have been doing this for 5 years now. Flutter 2 weeks ago released similar functionality, so you can now do over-the-air pushes with Flutter.
And hybrid apps. Anything that's Ionic or PhoneGap websites, they've been doing the same thing.
Yeah, they realistically have to disallow web views as well. You know, if they won't allow any dynamic content. So. Yeah, it's worth saying that you can't OTA the underlying native APIs. So you know, it's not like we could go and request permission for something that didn't previously exist. You know, you still have to go through the official release process for regular SDK updates as well.
Yeah, sure.
So by the time you've submitted to the App Store, they already know what native code is in your app. All we're doing is changing how we're pushing the buttons on that native app.
Yeah.
If the bug is in if the bug is in native code or a native module, you won't be able to push over this.
Yeah, correct. Except to like disable the access of that code, for example, or hide it away.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think that's it.